Robots can flip your hamburger or weld together your car. Now they can operate in a vacuum, fixing satellites in orbit. That's thanks to a program funded by DARPA but carried out by the Naval Research Laboratory. The result is a machine ready for a commercial launch to take into space. Here with the details, the acting director of the Naval Center for Space Technology, Bernie Kelm. Mr. Kelm, good to have you in studio.
Good. Thank you for having me here.
And tell us about this program. What are you trying to accomplish with this, the overall objective here?
So this is a really exciting program for us at NRL. We are developing the robotic servicing of geosynchronous spacecraft payload under DARPA funding that will be able to rendezvous, dock, service, repair, and upgrade satellites in space that are not designed to be serviced. So this, we're very excited, is going to change the way we do things in space. Spacecraft are the only thing the country fields that are very expensive, never touched, never serviced, outside of the very limited cases of the Hubble Space Telescope and the International Space Station.
And that was about $1 billion to get up there and fix that.
That's a very expensive mission. Yes, and so we're looking to be able to do that much more cost effectively, have one spacecraft that can service many spacecraft over its lifetime. That's why we're focused on geosynchronous Earth orbit, where the most valuable real estate in space is for both government, commercial, research, scientific, national security spacecraft. Very, very valuable part of space.
Sure. And what tends to go wrong? Is there a pattern of failures in that particular field of satellites?
So, I think one of the first services we're going to be able to provide is just life extension. Satellites are launched with a limited amount of fuel, and when they run out of fuel at geosynchronous Earth orbit, we need to move them to a graveyard orbit so that we can move a new satellite in. Spacecraft don't have a really good fuel gauge. They don't know exactly how much fuel they have left, so being able to provide augmented propulsion, maybe add a propulsion backpack to it so spacecraft can have greater maneuverability, being able to let spacecraft stay and operate until they are fully out of fuel, and then we can go take them to the graveyard.
No chance of refueling them.
So refueling technology is coming. That's a harder problem. That is not what DARPA and NRL and Northrop Grumman Space Logistics are working on, but Northrop Grumman Space Logistics, DARPA's partner on this mission, is going to be able to install propulsion backpacks. So instead of literally connecting a fuel pump, which is technology that is being worked, be able to put an add-on module that can do the same function. So a much easier way to start.
So there is one of these built, correct?
So we have at NRL, we have developed the payload for the RSGS mission. So this payload has two 2-meter-long robot arms. They're both taller than I am. All of the cameras, tools, tool changers, processing, sensors that we need to execute this mission, that through DARPA's partnership is being provided to Space Logistics, who will provide the spacecraft bus to marry the spacecraft and the payload together to be the full mission. And so NRL recently delivered the payload to Northrop Grumman Space Logistics. They are completing it, and we're going to launch early next year.
Got it. And will this then head to one satellite that needs work, or what? How does this work if you have multiple satellites you want to visit?
So that's one of the things that's really great about this mission. We're focused on geosynchronous Earth orbit. The laws of physics at GEO let us be able to easily move from satellite to satellite. You may have seen a satellite fly over if you're out camping or in your backyard. You may see the space station or you may see Starlinks, and you can easily look up when they are. Those satellites are in low Earth orbit. They're several hundred miles above the surface of the Earth. And you may see them take 10 minutes to go across the sky from horizon to horizon. GEO is much, much higher. It's at 22,000 miles above the Earth. This is actually an interesting orbit that was first proposed by Arthur C. Clarke.
Sure, yeah.
He thought that the world would need 3 satellites in GEO to provide all of our communication needs. We have hundreds and hundreds that provide national security missions, commercial missions, civil space missions. And so at GEO, the satellite will stay at one spot in the sky.
Right.
So you could have a satellite TV dish at your house that doesn't have to track and move. It points to a point in space, and the satellite will stay there all day. That lets us easily go from satellite to satellite. And so DARPA's partner will handle the business side of the operations once we're on orbit and prioritize which satellites to go to first. We're optimistic that we'll be able to service possibly 5 in a year and hopefully be able to do so for 10 years or more. So we'll be able to provide this value to many satellites.
We're speaking with Bernie Kelm. He's acting director of the Naval Center for Space Technology, part of the Naval Research Laboratory. And it sounds like the challenge in this is not so much the technology, but the integration of sounds like dozens of technologies and subsystems so that you have a reliable whole here.
That is exactly right. So the base technology for this has existed for a while. We've really been working 20 years at the Naval Research Lab to mature this technology, to bring it all together. But this is a systems integration problem. How do we make everything work together? The robot arms are commanded at a certain rate. There's lights and cameras at the end of the robot arms that when they move, the shadows move. That changes what we need to have our machine vision processing. And the whole thing is free-floating in zero-G with about 2 or 3 seconds of time delay from ground to space. So we have to build up autonomous operations so that we can execute this mission safely. You can imagine with 2 or 3 seconds time delay, if you were trying to drive home from here and your car reacted 2 or 3 seconds after you gave it input, well, this time of day, you're not getting home.
Yeah, you've answered my next question, which is that latency or that delay of issue of the signal going up and down 22,000 miles and also processing while it's in a card or something. But are people watching and monitoring through monitors anyway while it's doing its work?
Absolutely. We will be very closely monitoring. We will be developing the plan for the space vehicle to execute. The space vehicle will be able to execute some modes of operation fully autonomously, especially when we do our first rendezvous and docking with the satellite. The time delay makes that really prohibitive for us on the ground to be able to react in time. So that'll be fully autonomous. We've demonstrated that in our lab hundreds and hundreds of times to mature that, and to be able to have that run on a spaceflight processor, which I don't know if everybody knows, the amount of processing we can carry in space is much, much less than we have on the ground, that we need spacecraft computers that can survive in a high radiation, really challenging thermal environment for years and years.
And this object, the satellite itself, it sounds like it can not only catch up to other satellites in geosynchronous orbit, but when it gets to one, can maneuver in very tiny increments. Otherwise, you could puncture the other satellite or not quite get there.
Yes, being sure that this is a safe operation has really been critical to what we've been working to develop at NRL. And so, we need a uniquely designed spacecraft bus, and that Northrop Grumman is providing. They can provide that really fine control to be able to come in and do the very precise movements, have our spacecraft position ourselves to centimeter level accuracy. And then we use the robot arms to provide millimeter level accuracy of exactly where they want to touch and grapple and dock and provide the servicing.
And what will it do there? Will it screw and unscrew screws? Will it loosen and tighten bolts and that kind of thing?
So that's a little more robust than we're looking at. We have 4 primary missions that we're looking at. The first is to come in and just take advantage of the fact that we have lights and cameras and provide ultra-close inspection from centimeter level away. I don't know, sometimes we call it NCIS in space. Sometimes spacecraft have failures and we don't know exactly what happened. So be able to come in and inspect and see exactly what happened. We could certainly imagine it could be an important national security issue. If one of our spacecraft has a failure at wrong times, it could be space environment. So very, very close inspection. Second is to be the tow truck mission that I mentioned earlier, to be able to rendezvous dock and help a satellite do a maneuver that it couldn't make otherwise. The third, that will be very hard to predict when it happens, but could be extremely valuable, is help with anomaly resolution. Spacecraft are folded up very tight to fit on the rocket to go into space. We have spacecraft in geosynchronous orbit that have a wingspan larger than a commercial aircraft. However, they're folded up to within just several meters for launch. Every once in a while, something goes wrong with that deployment, and our options are limited from the ground, that we can send the command again. We can, fire again. Did it work? We could try to fire our thrusters and try to shake it loose. We could try to put the failed component in